Hi, everybody. Welcome to Grace with Paul Gray. We've been doing a detective story this week, and if you haven't heard the other parts of this, I urge you to read them. I'm going to give or listen to them. I'm going to give you a very short recap here to do our part today. Our detective story picks up with 20-year-old Sam, whose adoptive parents had just died, and he's now doing some detective work of his own and finding out that the private eye that he hired to find his birth father was deceiving him. He charged him for several trips to Topeka, where they'd located two men that could be his father, but the guy actually only went once. And the guy was giving Sam a mixed message about what his birth father was like, combining the characteristics of these two men that he'd found, who actually had the same name and did put baby boys up for adoption at roughly the same time, within a few days of each other. Well, in combining their characteristics, he claimed that the father was both really good and very much a cruel, vindictive tyrant. Sam knew that both couldn't be true at the same time. Well, Sam gets the addresses from where the detective was taken by the Uber records, and he runs the addresses on a computer program and finds one's a hotel and one's a bakery. One's a manufacturing plant. The other two are residences for a man named Victor McAllister. He wonders, does Mr. McAllister own two different houses, or are there two different people with the same name, which it turns out there are. He decides to fly to Topeka himself and see what he can come up with. He conjures up this story in his mind that he's doing a research paper for his college entrepreneurial leadership class, and his teacher has assigned him two businessmen with the same name. He knows that's lying, but he figures the end justifies the means. First he flies to Topeka, rents a car, and goes to the address for the Topeka Manufacturing Company, a large, sprawling complex in the industrial part of the city. Very antiseptic, not welcoming or anything, just a manufacturing plant. At the receptionist desk, he asks if he can see Mr. Victor McAllister. The lady asks him the nature of the visit and if he has an appointment. Well, Sam gives her his spiel about doing a research paper on entrepreneurial leadership and says he wants to interview Mr. McAllister. She's very skeptical, and she says, well, Mr. McAllister's very busy, and he doesn't meet with outsiders unless they have an appointment and he knows what they want to talk about. Well, Sam turns on his charm as best as he can, and amazingly, she says, okay, have a seat over there, I'll see what I can do. She makes a call, which Sam can hear her side of, and can tell by her reaction that the person she's not calling is happy, and she keeps apologizing. But for some reason, he apparently agrees to meet, but only for 15 minutes. Soon a rather stern-looking man, a security man with a badge, shows up and says, come with me. Without any other words, he leads him down a long corridor through some doors that lock behind them, and he takes him into a small 6-foot by 6-foot room that has a thick plexiglass window on the side with a stool in front of it, much like a visitor's booth in a prison where you talk to somebody on the other side of the glass through a little hole. In a couple of minutes, a gruff-looking man in a work uniform who's wearing a hard hat appears on the other side of the window and says, I'm McAllister. What do you want? Well, Sam's taken aback. He starts into his story about doing a research paper on entrepreneurial leadership, and in a minute or so, the man interrupts him and says, I don't believe you. Why are you really here? Sam is really flustered, and he blurts out, 20 years ago, I was adopted when I was a baby, and I have reason to believe you might be my father. The gruff man stares at him, says, Crybaby, you're not my son. He gets up, turns around, and walks away. Sam is devastated, as you might imagine. Want to see what happens next? Join me tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.